Naughty Dog's place in the industry is one that has always come with challenges. Despite a run of games that have in every instance shaken the medium, the studio remains in the most unique version of their success to date. Success that many are waiting for them to channel into the public yet again. The beginning of a new era where it's never been more important that they move the industry needle. A needle that many are trying to push in the opposite direction. 13 years ago, Naughty Dog was continuing to thrive off the brand-altering success of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Its massively anticipated sequel, Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception, was just around the corner amidst their entire studio having climbed their way to a new level of mainstream attention. Games with film-like storytelling mixed with gameplay to match were still only a beautiful secret to those who happened to stumble upon the Uncharted series in the beginning stages of the PlayStation 3. The franchise's DNA would later go on to create the entire blueprint of much of modern PlayStation's output. If you played Drake's Fortune the day it came out, you waited less than 2 years for its follow-up, in a combined 4 years to get your hands on an expertly crafted trilogy. It has now been almost 5 years since the launch of The Last of Us Part 2. One real pandemic and one far more interesting fictional one later, Naughty Dog finds themselves in the same headspace they were in 13 years ago, developing and releasing their first new IP since 2013. And in addition to Intergalactic, something else. Naughty Dog was known for developing one game at a time up until The Last of Us was accidentally revealed in a London bar on launch night of Uncharted 3. 11/1/11, a date that would precede their biggest risk yet. Naughty Dog was no stranger to the now defunct Spike Video Game Awards, however a new game reveal would typically be over a year out. Uncharted 3 had a single month of shelf life before they would reveal The Last of Us. And still, despite an oncoming undead fatigue at the time, Naughty Dog's credibility built over those last 4 years carried into the early reception for the reveal. The trailer spoke for itself as shown by the comments. The internet was a far more innocent place than it has grown to be. When it's time for these renowned studios to launch a new IP, their entire existence becomes a proving ground. A success like Uncharted Drake's Fortune or The Last of Us usually means they go on to create within that success for long periods of time. Creating a sequel and additive content is something they know people will show up for as they have already achieved that investment. And each time they have pushed the boundaries of what character development can look like in their medium, sinking people deeper into that investment. While this instance of a new IP by way of Intergalactic is similar to what happened in 2011, the scope of it today is far different. 2011 Naughty Dog had everyone in their favor, but the bolder your stories become, the more likely your audience is to shift in different directions. The challenges of a modern Naughty Dog are ones with a microscope on them at all times. Regardless of technical prowess, there will always now be something to prove. To portions of the consumer base, you are only as good as your last game. Settling into success isn't an option. Contrary to popular belief, the rift in Naughty Dog's fanbase is not as big as the internet would want you to believe, but it doesn't mean it isn't loud. Still, in 2024, there is a part of the consumer base blissfully ignorant of leaks or anything that got them into their current position in the industry. The division didn't start with The Last of Us Part 2. It started with Uncharted 4. In order for Uncharted to end in the place that it did, it required a pivot of tone. Tone that came with the loss of industry titan Amy Hennig. While Amy's exit was not due to a need for a tone pivot, it resulted in a justified worry for a franchise that up until this point had not missed a note. Nathan Drake had become one of the industry's most beloved characters, as is evident in the numbers Uncharted 4 went on to do. The story behind the development of Drake's finale will likely never see the light of day, but the parts of it that remain a mystery will continue to live in a list of reasons Naughty Dog catches slack from corners of their fanbase. When one part of a fandom finds something negative to latch onto, there will never be unity within it again. There now exists a counterbalance that will never stop pushing, and that comes with success in any medium. Legacy, when you break it down, is just a series of accolades with days, weeks, or years of trial and error in between each one. But there are always groups of people who only care about what they perceive to be the errors. From that point on, pressure is applied to what comes next from the creator in completely more aggressive ways. In Naughty Dog's case, this has consumed the conversation and created unneeded split. But there are always ways to mind the gap. It isn't breaking news that Naughty Dog is working on an additional secret project. Back when Factions 2 was cancelled, it was stated that they have more than one ambitious new single-player game they are working on and that they look forward to sharing more. There just happens to be a little bit more detail now. Neil Druckmann on a recent podcast shared that he was serving as more a mentor/producer role on the second game. In addition to that, it's rumored that the person leading the game is none other than Sean Eskai. Sean is no stranger to Naughty Dog's mark of quality people expect. He came from an animation background and was Neil's cinematographer and lead cinematic animator on The Last of Us. He went on to direct Uncharted: The Lost Legacy alongside longtime Naughty Dog lead Kurt Marganow. Neil acted as head of narrative development and oversaw the game. However, in addition to directing, Sean also wrote The Lost Legacy alongside Josh Scher, another Naughty Dog heavy hitter, now alumni. In the spirit of PlayStation's first-party studios being bred to make games of this quality over time, this is what it's all about. If Sean is leading Naughty Dog's next game, it's the right choice. It's been earned. The question then becomes, what is it? It's out of the realm of possibility that a second team would be working on an additional new IP. Naughty Dog is far too careful with the introduction of new worlds that the idea of juggling a second one, even if Neil Druckmann oversees it, feels unrealistic. Especially considering Intergalactic is the first new IP from the team in over 12 years. As such, the clear step forward is the continuing of Uncharted, which has been dormant since 2017. It has been almost 10 years since we were in that world. Revisiting it feels right in the context of the studio's current standing. There is no doubt that Sean Eskai and the second team could create a compelling new IP, but creating an entire new world with its own rule set is a lot to manage amongst another. Revisiting Uncharted can mean a couple things. You can either go forward or backward. It has been long rumored Sony has wanted to get a Drake's Fortune remake off the ground. Sean happens to have also been creative director on the Last of Us Part 1 remake. As much experience as you need to be the chosen one to take on another remake. One which would inevitably lead to the following two games in the trilogy receiving the same treatment. While many would consider this more of Naughty Dog wasting time, it could be the right stepping stone to getting Nathan Drake's story in the hands of a new generation, which in turn is where you can then move forward with what happens post Uncharted 4. Plus, all Naughty Dog's modern games would be in visual parody. Sequels and new IP would be the only move. Continuing Uncharted beyond Drake's story has been a sensitive subject since it came to a close in 2016. The conclusion of A Thief's End is so well done that the idea of seeing anything beyond it is borderline uncomfortable to think about. However, even 9 years ago, it was clear as day that Cassie Drake is set up to be the continuation of Legacy, should Naughty Dog choose to pursue it. She is her father's daughter. The issue becomes that another studio cannot continue Uncharted unless that studio is comprised of former Naughty Dog developers and writers. Uncharted's character writing sits among the greats, and Sean has shown he understands why and how that is. Naughty Dog's games and IP are far too high-end to pass off to another studio. That talent doesn't just exist everywhere. Golden Abyss was able to work because it was a handheld game. While a great game, it launched 3 months after Drake's Deception with the gameplay of Drake's Fortune. In most situations, should Uncharted be passed on, it would be an obvious step down if developed by anyone else. Which is why the second game being developed alongside Intergalactic is most likely Uncharted, remake or sequel. Sean and the team have the tools and the know-how to do it right. Many think the idea of Cassie being a treasure hunter would be a disservice to the messaging of greed and what it can cause that Uncharted 4 so well conveyed. How could Nathan Drake in any world allow his daughter to suffer in his footsteps? If the sequel followed real time, as the games always felt like they generally did, Cassie would be in her early 20s by now. Regardless of Drake's parenting ability, she's going to do whatever she wants, and that's a very easy and compelling way to continue this series. Cassie may not want her achievements to solely live in her father's shadow. Some people need to create their own legacy, and one's not going to hear all those amazing stories and not seek their own adventure. If that's not what Uncharted is all about, then what is? The beginning of a new Uncharted saga would also benefit from starting from a lighthearted place like it did back in 2007. Who better to orchestrate that than the person who managed to pull exactly that off in the most recent entry? The Lost Legacy had the mastered gameplay mechanics of Uncharted 4 and felt infused with the spirit of Amy Hennig. It featured set pieces that rival the franchise's best. Ultimately, they managed to deeply expand upon the life and personalities of Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross, while still making sure it didn't forget where it came from. Uncharted has way too many unexplored characters to start somewhere completely fresh. Much like The Last of Us isn't The Last of Us without Ellie, Uncharted isn't Uncharted without a Drake and company. Naughty Dog should always have people rising to the occasion and becoming new leads over time. It's always been that way, and it's always worked that way when done very carefully. Sean Eskai knows Uncharted, as is evident with what he accomplished with Kurt back in 2017. It's been 8 years since then. At any rate of progress, what is coming is going to meet the standard many have for the studio regardless of the risk or loss of help on Intergalactic. Progress demands sacrifice, but they know that already.